Hi guys, and welcome to another review episode. In today's video, we are going to be looking at a video from Kelly Hogan, named Breakthroughs from Real People, the small tweaks that gave them big results. Now, I haven't actually watched this video yet. In the interest of transparency, this is a genuine first time reaction. So we'll see what Kelly Hogan has to say and what the format of this is. It's about 37 minutes long. I'm going to try not to interrupt too much because I'm getting some feedback on my channel that I am interrupting a little bit too much. I'm going to try and let people talk a little bit more and then give my feedback. So let's get into the video.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Hogan, and welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. I am joined here today by 8 of my group members and now also friends who have come here today to share some recent breakthroughs in their carnivore journeys. I just simply said, if any of you have something that's been working for you lately and you would be brave enough to come and share it on YouTube, volunteer. And they did. Suckers. No, I'm kidding. I'm so glad they're willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good. People that are willing to share their journey, I think, is really incredibly powerful. That's how I started my podcast, the Meat Medic podcast, from people sharing their stories. Really, really powerful. Okay, so I guess straight off, we know we've got 8 or so people here with Kelly, and they're talking about the carnivore journey. I always question when people say carnivore, what do they actually mean by a carnivore? Because carnivore can mean lots of different things to different people. I myself don't call myself a carnivore. I don't follow what I think people think of as the carnivore diet, though I do eat a 90+% meat and egg diet, which in most people's books probably is carnivore, but I do think there is an important distinction to be made. So we'll see if they talk a little bit about what they're actually eating in this episode.
If you enjoy the video, get something out of it, and you're willing to say thank you to them for volunteering their time today, that would be a really nice thing to do. I'm going to start today with Hannah because she does need to leave pretty soon. I know that she wants to speak a little bit about how she went carnivore and then what it was that recently made her carnivore experience even better. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Kelly. So for me, my husband went carnivore over a year ago, and I thought, wow, this is amazing for you, but this doesn't work for women. Women need carbs for our different parts of our cycle and for so many things. And while I would love to do it and have that same experience, I can't because I'm a woman. And then, I got diagnosed with intramural uterine fibroids, and I was told, oh, you need to have a hysterectomy because you have one that's the size of an orange, another the size of the lime, and there's just no way to do it. But my husband found Dr. Barry's in a video that showed, hey, ask your doctor if you can just, try out carnivore for 30 days or 90 days and see if it works for you. And so here I am 6 months later, still seeing if it works for me. I had a hormone imbalance.
So I guess, first thoughts there are, is she on a carnivore diet? I guess she probably is. She said she's still trying it 6 months later to see if it works. I don't know if she's referring to just kind of general health or whether she's referring to, my mic's falling down here, whether she's referring more to, specifically the intramural fibroid. Intramural fibroids of a very large size, general recommendation is going to be to have surgery because there's always a possibility that they can be, cancerous as well, though fibroids are technically benign. There is a risk there. They can cause a lot of pain, a lot of dysfunctional bleeding, cause a lot of problems, a lot of morbidity, not mortality, though, thankfully. Generally not going to be recommended to follow a carnivore diet. There's nothing special about a carnivore diet that's going to fix that. We don't know if hers are fixed yet or not. I guess the implication there, sorry, is that they're not. She's still trying to see if it works. Yeah, I mean, 6 months, not really much benefits from carnivore. I would question then if it's actually working or not. If you're not seeing the benefits, what's the point in doing it? But to go back and address her point about the carbs, and for women, there's nothing exceptionally different about women compared to men. Males, we are a little bit easier. We are a little bit simpler. We can kind of get away, I suppose, if you will, with kind of almost doing whatever we want to do, probably in many aspects compared to women. But specifically to diet, my mic is falling down here. I don't know why. I need to adjust this thing. But basically, when it comes to diet, men can kind of almost do what they like and get away with it a lot more than women can. Things like fasting, we're a lot freer as men to be able to just pretty much fast as long or short as we like, and it doesn't really have any major implications. It is typically easier for men to go onto a low carb, keto, or zero carb, in this case, diet, with less hormonal irregulation and so on than women. Women do seem to be a little bit more carb sensitive to men. They seem to struggle a little bit more, and they seem to potentially have more issues when they're going onto that zero carbohydrate diet. And the question is why? We truly don't know. Are there any tests to look for this? No, unfortunately, there's not. There's no test that's going to tell you that you need carbs or you don't need carbs. It is interesting that a lot of women do report, and if you frequent the carnivore forums, you'll see a lot of women talking about carbs and this carb kind of just a drive, this demand for carbs, this inherent push towards carbohydrates when it's their periods or around their menstrual cycle, which may lead to the idea that they need carbohydrates to support their body. Interestingly, though, a lot of women seem to be trying to find all sorts of ways to, I suppose, get around that and to not give in to the carbohydrates and so on because they're wanting to stick to this zero carbohydrate diet, which I think is fine if it's suiting you, and that's all well and good. But it also raises the question, I think, for me, why does the body want those carbohydrates? And this is very often what the carnivore women report, is the rest of the month they feel absolutely fine. There's no addiction to carbs. They're not driven towards carbohydrates. They feel absolutely fine doing that kind of very low, ultra low, perhaps even zero carb diet. So why then do they get driven towards carbohydrates around their periods? And it doesn't seem to be an energy thing because they can eat a ton of fat and it still doesn't go away, which is giving them a ton of energy. So what is it about the menstrual cycle that's driving them towards carbs? And I think this is the more important question. Why are we women, and I say we, I'm not included in that, of course, but just generally as mankind, why are we driven towards carbohydrates, women obviously around their cycles? And should we actually be considering eating some form of clean, quote unquote, clean carbohydrate, something like fruit, dairy, milk, for example? That I think is perhaps the more important question, which people unfortunately are not really asking themselves generally.
Extreme estrogen dominance, low progesterone and testosterone, GI issues, thyroid issues. My cortisol never awakened. And while I got off of my, supplements within a couple of weeks of starting carnivore, because I was wondering, like, are they keeping me from healing faster? So I finally got off of them. I improved, but it was just ever so slightly. And I thought, maybe something's wrong with me. Like, why is this taking longer for me to feel better? Other people say, oh, they feel great after the third day.
Right,
And
right.
here I am 3, 4, 5 months later, still not feeling great. So I saw.
And that's an important point there. Some people and myself, when I went carnivore 2 days, 2 days, literally 2 days, I felt absolutely incredible. I felt like absolute Superman. And then I started to get issues, further down the line around 6 to 9 months. Some people though, like this lady, Hannah, she's just not reporting really vast improvements. She's not feeling that benefit. So I guess the question is, why does this affect some people maybe in different ways than others? And this is where you should really go and see a doctor who's actually fairly well versed in low carb, keto, carnivore space, who kind of knows a little bit about what might be going on, can do some actual proper testing for you to see what is actually going on.
Some videos from Dr. Bright. It started iodine just to 2 to 3 drops a day of 2% because I couldn't find 5%. And it wasn't until I saw your video with Dr. Brownstein, Kelly, that he actually specified, like, no, if you have some growth or something, you need like 50 milligrams a day. So once I went to 20 drops of the 2%, within a day, I felt like not euphoric, but like what everybody else said that they experienced on day 3 of carnivore. And so ever since I've added the iodine in, I'm nicer in my own head, which is a big deal because it's hard sometimes to be nice to people outside of your own head too. I'm more patient with my kids. Even my daughter will be like, oh yeah, it's been a big difference. I'm more focused and, you know, all of my hormones feel so much more balanced. So it's been amazing for me. So the carnivore plus iodine has been my key to more of the success and the healing that, I was seeking in the first place.
All right.
So that's really interesting. I mean, a couple of points there in terms of feeling, your hormones. Uh, yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of testing. Big fan of testing. In terms of your hormone levels, things like estrogen, progesterone, in this case, obviously for female, LH, FSH, prolactin, testosterone as well, including in females. It's a routine test that I check for my female patients as well. Especially if they're not, if they're not feeling great, because low testosterone is a thing in women. Women do need testosterone, just like men. It is very, very important. And the levels that we work with here in Australia, which I think off the top of my head is nanomoles per liter. I'd have to double check that though. Women should be at least probably one, ideally maybe 1.5 to 2, perhaps. Of course, you can be too high, and then you might be looking at things like polycystic ovarian syndrome. But of course, most women are actually quite low. They're usually like 0.4, 0.6, maybe 0.8, and they get the same symptoms as men with low testosterone, exactly the same symptoms as kind of low estrogen and so on after menopause, for example. Just fatigue, tiredness, lethargy, weight gain, loss of motivation, low libido, low sex drive, just sexual dysfunction, just not feeling right in their head, stress, anxiety, depressive symptoms, memory problems, all of these kinds of things. Exactly the same as men. And this is a real problem. A lot of women would never even know. So definitely good that Hannah is thinking about this, thinking about her hormones and thinking about getting them checked, and so thinking about just what's going on with them. A couple of points there about the iodine. Number one is I would question any diet where we have to supplement. If we have to supplement, is it actually a complete diet? Is it actually a proper diet if we're having to supplement? My argument would be no, but there is a caveat to that. The caveat is in today's world, food quality is so poor that even on the best possible diet you could possibly do, the absolute optimum, perfect human diet, which we still don't truly know exactly what it is, though it's likely to be a hyper carnivore diet. And I've got videos on that on my main channel at The Meat Medic if you guys want to check that out. Even if we're following the optimum human diet, regardless of just the argument around what it exactly is, let's just say, for example, we know for sure exactly what it is. We might still benefit from supplementation because our food quality is just so poor nowadays that we may not be able to get everything that we actually need from the diet. So that's number one. I would argue against having to supplement. If it is, your diet may not be complete, though there is a small caveat there. Number two is the iodine. Now, Hannah explained that she started taking a couple drops, 2 to 3 drops of Lugol's iodine 2%, which is a very common iodine supplement for people on the carnivore diet. I have a lot of issue with the kind of general advice. I mean, okay, like Hannah's not giving medical advice, but I think as a podcast host or whatever, Kelly Hogan should be saying here, look, you need to go see your doctor. This is not medical advice. Iodine can be very dangerous, etc. And she's not saying that, which I think is a downside. Iodine can be really serious stuff. It can be really dangerous, and you really have to be careful. I've seen people flip themselves into, all I can describe is just overt hyperthyroidism, like really serious hyperthyroidism, from taking just 2 drops of Lugol's 2% iodine a day. These patients, they had extreme fatigue, tiredness. They felt really unwell, extremely tachycardic. That's a really high really high heart rate. Sorry, feverish, unwell. They felt, really, the blood pressure was really off. Headaches, just profoundly losing weight, but not in a good way. All their muscle, everything, just basically disappearing, and basically just felt like they were dying. And they came to me and said, look, what on earth is, what's going on with me? Why do I feel this unwell, and so on? And I checked their thyroid, checked the iodine levels. The iodine levels are absolutely through the roof, and the thyroid was just absolutely insanely sky high. Thankfully, I've had this happen twice now to a couple of patients. They basically recovered. The solution was to completely stop the iodine. They did the medications for the short term, not long term, thankfully. Though one of those patients does still have ongoing problems with their thyroid. And I don't know whether they've screwed their thyroid because of this or just there's ongoing other issues with the thyroid. It's impossible to truly know. But it took them a long time to actually accept that the iodine supplementation was actually causing them a problem. But it was very clear because as soon as they stopped that, they started feeling better. And that was the only thing that had changed. And they went off to see specialists, endocrinologists, everything, and they all said the same thing. It's the iodine that's basically driving this. 20 drops. This was, bearing in mind, these were patients with 2 to 3 drops a day, which is what Hannah was saying she took at the start. She's now saying that she's taking 20 drops of 5% iodine, which is 2.5 times as strong. This is likely to be an enormous dose of iodine. Now, if you genuinely need that, look, fine, that's no problem. But this is potentially a massive, massive dose of iodine. And I would be extremely cautious about following that kind of advice without getting urine iodine checks and getting a regular thyroid function check. TSH, that's thyroid stimulating hormone, T3 and T4. Really important. Here in Australia, you have to ask for those specifically, and you probably will have to pay for them unless you're known to have problems with your thyroid. Even then, the lab will often not do the T3. You really have to specifically ask for it. And then even then, often the labs don't do it. It's very, very annoying. Your doctor has to ring up and specifically ask them after the fact, please do the T3. Really important. Reverse T3, I don't think is overly important, particularly I know people talk about it. I've never really seen that much of a use for it myself personally. But a urine iodine, you can't really do a serum iodine, at least not here in Australia. Urine iodine, really, really important. And that might just show that you're really quite deficient or really grossly excessive. Of course, otherwise go on how you feel. This person, Hannah, she's saying she feels great, which is fantastic. This other patients, of course, they felt absolutely, truly awful. If they were being honest with themselves, they should have come in a lot sooner to see me. Just a quick note on Hannah's suggestion there that high doses of iodine might help with the audio was a bit funny there, but she said growths. I presume she's meaning the intramural fibroid here. There really isn't any evidence that thyroid supplementation can benefit things like intramural fibroids, though there is a lot of anecdote out there. There isn't any solid research, but there is anecdotes out there that iodine supplementation could improve some of these things. There are a lot of women out there that do things like betadine, iodine rubs and things on their breasts, for example, for breast lumps, and they do report anecdotally that things do get a little bit better. So there is anecdote, but there isn't any terribly good research out there for iodine supplementation on these kinds of growths.
Hannah, going carnivore, you did feel some benefit, but really you said you had to work your way up to then 20 drops of 2%. Is that what you're currently doing? That's working really well?
Correct. Yep, I do
Great.
20 drops every single morning.
I think she said she was doing 5%, though I could be slightly wrong there, which is huge dosing. I would question whether she would feel actually just as good doing, say, like a low carb or a keto diet and then adding in the iodine, or perhaps just focusing on iodine rich foods like seafood, fish, milk products, typically quite high in iodine because of the feed that they give cattle, plus also potentially the cleaning products that they use as well. I would wonder whether she would actually feel just as good doing iodine on almost any diet, because that seems to have made actually the difference for her. So is carnivore diet really benefiting her? That's perhaps debatable in this case.
So I did do an interview with Dr. Barry about this, and in the comment section of that video, there were several hundred comments of people. I would say about half of them said, oh my gosh, I started taking iodine and everything got better. And then about half said, I either didn't notice any difference or it made things worse. So what I would encourage people to do is if you're not feeling great, you could get your iodine levels checked. My friend Danny Conway says test, don't guess. Or you could start really slow and low with iodine, like you said, 2 to 3 drops of 2%. If it
Which 2 to 3 drops could still cause you serious issues. So, I would be very, very careful. I think the best thing to do is test, find proper answers. Don't guess, definitely test. Guessing is just for fools, really, in my opinion.
cause any harm and you want to slowly increase, see if that's something that's going to help. But I'm thrilled, so thrilled that you're feeling better. And thank you that you took time out right before you had to leave To
I mean, the note on the screen there, not everyone needs 20 drops. I would say probably almost nobody needs 20 drops. Most people don't even need 2 to 3 drops a day. This probably comes back to the diet a little bit because, of course, a lot of people out there, they're really just doing meat, muscle meat. That's pretty much all they're eating on the, quote unquote carnivore diet. The problem there is that can, again, lead to serious deficiencies, including things like iodine. Muscle meat has little to no iodine actually in it. Sources of iodine, dairy, so milk, some cheese can have quite like mozzarella, like the more milky cheese can have quite high iodine. Things like eggs can have some iodine. Seafood, that's mostly where we're going to get our iodine. Fish that can also have iodine as well. I apologize, by the way, if you guys can hear my kids in the background. This is the benefits of recording from home on a Sunday. Interesting. I mean, I actually felt myself kind of craving iodine the other day. Actually, I just had a real craving for prawns and for milk. And I was like, why do I really want prawns and milk? And I was really kind of confused. And then I realized, well, man, oh yeah, prawns and milk. Where's the link there? It's iodine. So I had the prawns, had the milk, and oh my God, they tasted so amazing. But I still wanted more. So I thought, okay, well, I'll put some iodized table salt, which is not my preference because it's just kind of garbage salt. It probably has some microplastics in, on my food as a test. And yeah, the craving for the prawn and the milk just completely went away. Even though I'd already eaten some, I was still like, oh, I really want more. The cravings actually went away completely. So that's the thing. My body knows, okay, you're just low in your iodine. But when people are not used to listening to their bodies, they don't know how to interpret those signals. Or they get this idea, well, all you need to eat is meat all the time and nothing else. And that can be a problem.
share what has given you positive results. So you and your husband both feeling good these days.
Amazing, so much better. I still have healing to go, but I mean, the way I feel now is night and day different the way I did 6 months ago.
That's great. Hannah, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. All right, next up, I have Robin. And I know on this channel, we end up with a lot of weight loss stories. And the last share was not about weight loss either. And Robin, I don't know if you came here thinking anything about weight loss, but I know something other than weight loss also happened for you. So tell us a little about your journey here.
And just before Robin gets into her journey, I mean, just a little bit on weight loss there. A lot of people do lose a lot of weight on carnivore, and you'll hear all sorts of these amazing success stories on YouTube and so on. I've done, shows on my podcast, Meat Medic Podcast, about that. But a lot of people don't lose weight. And I actually see a lot of patients on the carnivore diet who are struggling, and they might lose a lot of weight and then they plateau, or they just can't lose weight at all. Honestly, quite a bit of the time, the solution is actually add some carbohydrates back into the diet, which a lot of people don't want to hear, but it very often actually works. Just a small amount, like 20, 30 grams a day. We're still well keto, just not carnivore anymore.
Did. Thanks so much for letting me share. So the weight loss part was my husband was trying to. I definitely still need to lose about 20 pounds, but I originally got involved in this and started eating this way because my husband looked into it. And honestly, I thought, well, I'll do it with him to kind of encourage him and it'll be easier. And I'm all about eating a steak. I mean,
Yes.
Tell me I can eat some fat and a steak. I'm good.
Surprising how many people really don't actually want to eat fatty steaks. They're so delicious. But just a quick point there, Robin, good job, Robin, for supporting your husband there. It's so much easier to make changes with your lifestyle at home if you're in a supportive environment. It's so hard when people are unfortunately actively kind of working against you. And I see this a lot with my patients. They want to make changes, but their partners, their family at home, they keep buying the chips and the dips. They keep buying the sodas, the alcohol, the smokes, all of these kinds of things. And these people are wanting to change, but it's so hard when they just have that temptation all around and their partners are really unsupportive. Worse, I've actually seen people actively sabotaging their partners. Unfortunately, it's really sad, but it does actually happen. When the partners are kind of cooking the food, controlling the shopping, all this kind of thing, and they're basically refusing to make those changes, it makes it incredibly difficult. And you could argue that is a form of domestic violence. It quite possibly is. Though of course there's always shades of grey with these things. But either way, if the home environment is not supportive, it's always going to be very, very tricky.
Even though I will tell you, I did think he was crazy. And I am a colon cancer survivor. I had stage 3 colon cancer. So of course my doctor told me limit red meat,
Yeah.
lots of fiber, all the stuff. So I thought, well, okay, but I'm 8 years out. So I thought we'll still do this.
Interesting that the World Health Organization, of course, still says that red meat causes bowel cancer, though, 8 of the 15 studies that they used to draw that conclusion didn't show any correlation with red meat at all. So more than half, which basically completely nullifies their point in entirety straight away. The other 7 showed, majority, I think 6, showed basically very little to no association. And the association they did show was not clinically significant, which again means there's basically no association, certainly not causation. And there were epidemiological studies, so you can't prove causation anyway. And then the one of the 15 that actually did show some correlation, clinically significant correlation, was a poor study. It wasn't a very good study. And yet they still say that red meat causes bowel cancer.
I have always been a runner. I've run marathons. I've always run road races. And on top of that, I'm a klutz. So those two things don't go together. Running, especially when I'm running with my dogs. I've had both of my ankles have been broken because of injuries while running with my dogs. So
Okay.
another time I tripped over my dog. It's just, I'm a klutz. So with that, they healed, but I kind of gave up the running because the pain, it just hurt. My ankles still hurt. So I started walking more. Went back to my doctor and I said, my ankles still hurt. And she said, I'm sorry, you have arthritis. You're old. And I thought, okay. So I just decided, my friend and I decided, we're old. We're going to have arthritis. Well, we're just going to hurt.
She doesn't look very old. This idea that we just get arthritis, our bodies are designed to fall apart, at like 40, 50 years old is just utter garbage. Genetically, we're really designed to live to about 120 years old. How does it make sense that our bodies are designed to just fall apart in their 40s and 50s? It really doesn't make any sense. Even this idea, this notion that some people throw around that kind of this so-called planned obsolescence in humans. We see it in technology nowadays. Companies making products that are designed to fail, so that just outside the warranty periods and so on, conveniently, so that then you have to buy more. I'm sure people can recount, like my mom always recounts her fridge freezer that's like 40 years old, that's still going strong, and washing machines that have done million cycles probably by now, 20, 30 years old, still going perfectly strong. You buy something now, it lasts for like 2 weeks and then it fails. It's absolute garbage. This idea that we have planned obsolescence, I'm just like diverging a little bit there, digressing, that's the word. This idea of planned obsolescence in the human species, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because historically we know in cultures that still follow a very traditional lifestyle in terms of, like indigenous populations, the elders in those groups, the older people, have very significant roles, within the community. They have, they're wise men, they're shamans, they're witch doctors, they are the healers, they are the leaders, the governors, they are the chiefs, these kinds of things. But there's a lot of evidence that these people are still going out hunting and being active parts of that community. It doesn't really make sense that we're designed to just kind of fall apart and not function properly once we reach a certain age. Maybe like 100, yeah, fine, 120, of course, but not 40, 50, 60. That doesn't really make any sense. But it is unfortunately something that we do hear quite a lot. I mean, I saw a patient the other day who was 30, 35, and they were told about 10 years ago, when they were 20, 25, that their testosterone was low, and it was super low. And they came to me just feeling terrible, basically, all the symptoms of low testosterone. And of course, yeah, the testosterone was crazy low. But looking back through the previous blood test results, they had some 10 years ago. And they were told at that point that their testosterone was low because they were old. 25 years old. They were told their testosterone was low because they were old. And it's just part of aging. What absolute bullshit. What absolute bullshit is that at 25 to be told you got low testosterone because you're old? So sadly, unfortunately, I do actually 100% believe Robin when she's told that doctors will just tell you, well, you're old, there's nothing you can do about it, off you go. Like, it's just, oh my God, the medical profession is so bad. We have so much to answer for. It's really bad.
The way it is, we're old. So when I started doing this with my husband, I'm still walking, really didn't even, it kind of gradually got better. And when things slowly change, you really don't notice.
Yes.
But then one day I was thinking, I'm not hurting anymore. This is so crazy. So went on vacation with some friends, and unfortunately I kind of went off the rails and ate bad with them. We went walking and I hurt again. And I thought, oh, this is so weird. The only thing that's changed is I added back in the crap food.
Yes.
So went back to eating right, just eating animal-based foods. And I don't hurt anymore. My ankles do not hurt. It's the craziest thing. I also do the iodine. We do notice a difference with that. My husband noticed he will get sluggish. And when I'm like reminding him to do the iodine, he feels better. I have introduced sardines. I had sardines for breakfast, thanks to you. And I'm still not hungry. So it's crazy how that works. I know.
The idea of sardines for breakfast doesn't overly appeal to me, but there's nothing special about sardines particularly. Look, I like sardines every now and then, but there's nothing overly special about sardines. Like everything, everyone suddenly thinks something's a superfood because somebody mentions it on YouTube. I think this was from Dr. Boz, maybe the sardine fast and so on. There's nothing really special about sardines. Sardines don't certainly fill me up that much, but again, I mean, she mentions things like animal-based foods. Is she carnivore? Is she animal-based? I think it's important to be specific with some of these things. I get maybe some of these people don't understand that it's important to be specific. I think it's important to be specific. Some people would say I'm overly pedantic with that. But the reason is because I've seen people following particular diets and having problems, but they're not understanding why they're having problems when other people do not. And it's because they're actually eating different things. They're saying, well, I'm eating carnivore, but carnivore can mean different things to different people. So I do think it's important to be a little bit pedantic. She mentioned there that she ended up feeling worse when she ate the crap, quote unquote, ate the crap. I mean, that's pretty common. Yeah, like you eat garbage food, you're going to feel pretty garbage. We know that's true. What we don't know is what would have happened if she just added some carbohydrates, for example, some fruit, maybe some dairy. Would she have still felt that pain? I would wager probably not. You add processed food and things, you add all those toxins back into the diet. Yes, you're going to feel crap. That's pretty understandable.
For somebody who's been in pain for years, and to be told, first of all, that you're old, girl, you don't look old. I'll say that much. You don't look
I'm
old.
55. I'm up there.
Well, you're older.
She looks pretty good for 55, gotta say. She doesn't look 55, maybe 45.
That's for sure. Okay. All right. That's still not old.
I'm old.
No, but for somebody to think this is it, this is just my pain, it's just going to get
Yeah.
worse. And then change your diet and the pain suddenly goes away. That is so cool. Robin, people
Yeah.
need to hear that. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's awesome.
Well, thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. Okay, next up, I have Colleen. She made a change that changed. I don't know if anything physical has changed about you, Colleen, if you want to tell about that too. But I think yours was also an internal difference. So tell us a little about that.
I actually started researching diet changes because arthritis was coming back. I had debilitating arthritis when I was in my early 20s, and I struggled through that with all of the drugs and every possible kind of alternative medicine I could come up with and every elimination diet, and nothing really helped. But I managed to get my symptoms down enough that I could function in life. So that was great. But then it started to come back, and I was like, no, that can't come back.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times we hear that. I see people in their 20s and 30s with just crippling arthritis. We're very good at just inventing new and new diagnoses, things like seronegative arthritis and things now. We come up with names for things that basically mean we don't know what's causing it. Yet we give it a name so that people are happy. We can give it some treatment and people can improve, at least in terms of their quality of life, but we're not actually treating the root cause of the problem. It's amazing how many people I've seen, with these problems go on the carnivore diet and then just miraculously go away. Yet mainstream medicine, conventional allopathic medicines, just, no, that's garbage. You can't do that. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to have a heart attack, all of these things, which is just absolute nonsense. Question is why? What is it about the carnivore diet that is so good for things like arthritis? We don't truly know because there's very little to no testing. Of course, there's no real research into the carnivore diet. My suspicion is it's the combination of a low carbohydrate diet, which we know can improve arthritis, A combination of that plus getting rid of all the processed crap, of course. So a lot of carnivores will get rid of all of that processed food, which makes a huge difference as well. And then the biggest one, perhaps, might be the plant toxins. And in of those, I think the biggest one is the oxalates. That's why my kind of more specialty area really is low oxalate, low carbohydrate, ketogenic diet, as opposed to a full, true meat-only carnivore diet. So I think you can get a lot of the benefits without necessarily going that full distance. But there's definitely something about this dietary approach that makes things like arthritis just melt away. But it's a shame how many people are not willing to try it. It really is. It breaks my heart when I see people with this crippling arthritis that are just not willing to give it a change for maybe 30 days. It's not a lot. It's just a shame.
Be able to put my own clothes on and hold the coffee cup. So that was why I looked into the diet changes. But the thing that really has shocked me, I mean, yes, pain's gone, same as Robin. And inflammation is just incredibly so much better. So that's fantastic. But I was shocked with the carb cravings going away. I didn't even realize that I was craving carbs. I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
That there was absolutely no possibility of going to a social event or a Christmas dinner and not eating way too many sweets.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, people are way too addicted to carbohydrates. This is true. It's just the default that people want carbohydrates. I mean, I've spoken about it on my podcast before with people. You know, like kids' parties. We've just had our youngest daughter's fourth birthday party, and it's just this expectation that you bring carbohydrates, you bring sugar. There's just massive mounds of icing on the cake, and all of this kind of stuff. If you just bring a lot of steaks and do a barbecue, they're going to be like, what the hell's going on? That'd be my idea of a good time for a party. But it's just this expectation that, you have to eat carbohydrates. But this carb addiction is very real. I mean, I'm certainly have issues with carbohydrate addiction myself personally. Very, very true. But is it carb addiction or is it just bad food addiction? And this is a question that I guess is personal. For me, my quote unquote carb addiction, I don't think it's carb addiction actually. I think it's more just kind of bad food addiction. And that's taken a long time for me to get over. It's taken many, many years, including the carnivore diet. I've been on my personal journey for decades, 20 odd years, probably longer than that, really 30 years, most likely. I'm about to turn 40 literally in about 5 days. But probably 30 years or so, I've been conscious of my weight, my body, and struggling with carbohydrates. So it's been a very, very long journey for me. I'm at a point now where I can eat carbohydrates and not have major problems, not get that addiction. I can eat fruit, I can eat berries, I can eat even raisins, which are pretty sugary. I had a little handful of raisins this morning. I can drink glasses of milk, and just stop at one glass. But you put some Oreos or some chips or something in front of me or bread, and it's just like, just go to town on that bad boy, because it's just the bad food, I think, not necessarily the carb addiction. So I think a lot of people that have this carb addiction may perhaps falsely ascribe it to carbs rather than just actually bad food. And I wonder how well they would do if they actually just ate clean carbohydrates like berries, yogurt, and milk.
Or even like I would go through the drive-through. I'm in Canada. Tim Hortons drive-through is like super important. And you go through the drive-through to get a coffee and a donut.
Oh.
And I would be like, no donut, no donut. You can do it. No donut. Order the donut, eat the donut.
Yes.
It was not even a thing. I had given up. I was like, nope, you're going to fail at this every time. So just stop trying. And then for these other health reasons, I started carnivore, and all of a sudden I'm like, donuts. Oh. Even in front of a giant spread of beautiful cupcakes decorated and just gorgeous, I'm like, no thanks. I'll have cheese and a coffee,
Isn't that wild?
It was incredible. Like, I didn't even know that it was possible. I thought that was just normal.
Yes.
So, yeah, incredible difference.
I've had the same experience going from irresistible, couldn't stop, would eat till I hurt afterwards, to how you described it, I think is perfect. Right? Like, it's not even really food. I can appreciate, wow, that took a lot of time and effort. That's very pretty. It might even smell nice. Same for flower arrangements, right? Wow, that's really pretty. It took time and effort. It smells nice. And yet I don't eat them. It's that simple for me. I can just give it a big eh. I love that for both of us, Colleen. And also, it's a nice lead in. Thank you for sharing that. And I think Rachel has also had a similar experience. But Rachel, yours, if you could just sort of tack on to what Colleen was saying, what was the real key to making that change?
Before we get into Rachel's story, yeah, I mean, this is definitely a thing that happens with Colleen. And of course, thank you, Colleen, for sharing your story with Kelly. Definitely a thing that happened. This is exactly the same. I had this with the carnivore diet. I used to have a real, again, like, call it carb addiction, sugar addiction, bad food addiction, whatever you want to call it. I definitely had binge eating disorder. I probably still do to a certain extent. And I would genuinely just like hide food. I would hide it in my pockets. I would go to the coffee room, get the sugar, get the snacks, take them back to my room, my office, eat them, put them in my pockets so nobody could see. And I'm pretty, ashamed of my kind of food behavior in the past. And then when I went on the carnivore diet, yeah, I mean, literally, I could just walk past food and be like, meh. Amazing, absolutely incredible. But I'm wondering now, thinking back, like, why? What is it? What is it about the carnivore diet that does this? Is it the eating more meat? No, I don't think it is. Is it the eating no carbs? Maybe. But very rarely does cold turkey actually work when it comes to addiction. And sugar is incredibly addictive. The centers of the brain that it kind of highlights, these studies have shown is very similar to methamphetamine, for example. Now, it may or may not be as addictive as meth, but it's very, very addictive. Ask anyone this. Sugar can be very, very addictive. So what is it about the carnivore diet? Is it the zero sugar? Maybe. Is it getting rid of all the junk food? Almost certainly. I think this is, and we see, and Dr. Sean Baker talks about this in his book, but he doesn't really explain why. He just says, oh, this is a thing, and then kind of moves on. I think, we see this with things like smoking and alcohol as well. A lot of people on the carnivore diet just seem to want less of those addictive behaviors. And I saw this with gaming. I have pretty much a gaming addiction to a particular game, which I don't play anymore. And that has taken me, again, about 20 years to kind of get over. And that's an ongoing process. I will never be free of that addiction, most likely, just like with my bad food addiction. But it's an ongoing process that you just have to kind of manage. You have to recognize the problem, of course, like with any addiction, and then take steps to manage it. But very rarely does cold turkey work. I think with the carnivore diet, it's a dopamine thing. And there's, meat and fatty meat particularly does trigger dopamine, but carbohydrates trigger dopamine more, and particularly bad food carbohydrates, that processed food really triggers the dopamine response. And dopamine, basically, the more dopamine we get, the more the body will want, the more it craves it, and the higher the threshold goes to get the same response. So you get this ever increasing demand for dopamine, and higher and higher and higher. We see this with things like rock climbers, mountain climbers, skydiving, BMX, off-roading, mountain, all these kinds of things. It has to be more. It has to be more challenging. It has to be more dangerous. It has to be more scary. It has to be taller, higher, more difficult, and all these other things, because they're just thrill-seeking. It's the same with food. Once you get rid of that dopamine and you basically detox from that dopamine, suddenly your brain just doesn't really want it as much anymore. And you start to enjoy, quote unquote, the simpler things in life. So I think a lot of this issue with carnivore diet, kind of fixing, quote unquote, sugar addiction is actually a dopamine issue, not anything inherently related actually to the carnivore diet. And I think a lot of it is just getting off that junk food, quite honestly.
Yeah, it was the advice that you gave that was to not let any sweet taste pass your lips. Because like Colleen, I had no willpower, and I thought it was just my fault. I'm just, I have no discipline, and I can't resist sweets, and I can't resist carbs. And I would go to like a family gathering and I'd have my little slice of pie a la mode with caramel. And then halfway through, I'm thinking about, when can I get the next slice of pie?
Yes.
If I walk over there now, will anybody notice that I put more pie on my plate?
And that was me for a very, very long time. But this goes back to what I was just saying. Is that carbs, or is that just processed garbage food that's designed to be addictive, designed to drive her back to the food cart every single time? That's not just getting a piece of fruit, getting an apple, getting a banana, getting a strawberry and eating it. That's pie covered in caramel sauce, designed to be highly addictive. Different story.
And then when I'm done, I'm like, gosh, we're going to be here for a few more hours. There's still some pie left. Maybe I could go over there and get some more, if nobody's looking. Turn on the game or something. Nobody will notice maybe if I get a third slice. But it was just no willpower at all. And starting carnivore, now, honestly, my story is so similar to Hannah's. It was like you could like cut and paste her story for mine. And I mean, just like the hormonal issues, the estrogen dominance, the pain. So many, the lack of energy, cortisol issues, all of that. When I came to finding carnivore, it was at the beginning of 2024, like January of 2024. And the same thing, I was praying. I was like, God, I can't do this. It's just been defeat after defeat after defeat. And it just felt like my body was just sliding into this deterioration. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, I can't have the rest of my life be like this. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I heard about carnivore. I'm like, I'll just try this wacky diet and see what happens, because I've got nothing to lose. I've tried so many other things. Nothing else is working. It's been all defeat. So let me see if I can have a little victory here,
I'm nodding along because that was pretty much me as well, like 2 years ago. And look, on this channel, I've been a little bit critical of Dr. Anthony Chaffee, but I do respect him in the sense that anyone in this keto space, carnivore space, low carb space, I respect. Anyone that's trying to make a difference out there, I do respect. But I mentioned him because he actually got me into the carnivore diet, and I went to listen to him talk at Low Carb Down Under 2022, I think it was now. It's a couple of years ago, and pretty much to the day, actually. And basically it was the same story. Like my life is basically shit. Like my health is really crap. I'm basically heading towards diabetes. I'm heading towards heart disease, all of these things. There's nothing I can do about it. I've tried in the past. I've done fasting. I've done low carb. I've done keto. I keep going back. I can't stick with anything. What is this crazy diet? Like, what is a carnivore diet? Like, it's just meat? Okay, I can get behind that. I'd actually heard about it previously from a patient, though my conventional kind of medical brain just discounted it and said, you're stupid, you're going to die, and you shouldn't do this thing. But then suddenly there was a doctor talking about it. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can actually just give this a go. I've done everything. This is literally a last ditch effort for me. I'm like, here I am 2 years later, not full carnivore, but like 90% carnivore, living the best life. Absolutely fantastic health, still losing some weight. That is a work in progress. It's been a journey for me through a very long time. But really, it's actually the same story here as Rachel, just giving up and then finally finding something that actually I could stick with for the most part, which is incredible.
And I would listen to, the interviews and everything, and so many people had success. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try it because I want my success story, right? Yes. So about 3 days in, literally 3 days into not having any sweet taste, I'm talking no stevia, no sweetener in my coffee. I replace my toothpaste. I don't take the little vitamin C tablets, right? Like no sweet taste at all.
Again, these are very different to, I'm trying not to interrupt too much, but this is an important point. These are very different natural sugars, fruit, for example, very different to, things like stevia. Stevia, they call it natural, but it's things like erythritol. They're allowed to call it natural because it's made in the human body as well, but it's really anything but natural. These things screw up the body like crazy. So getting rid of those is a really important point.
3 days in, the cravings were gone. Now, I don't think I had ever experienced this. So it was like a whole new world. And not only that, I also lost my wine cravings. I didn't even know I had wine cravings. I used to have it like, it was like a little ritual. After work, I would, have a little glass of wine, relax a little bit, start dinner. It was kind of my transition point into the evening.
Yes.
But I looked up and a few days later, I had no wine and I had no desire for it. I was like, this is so weird. Who knew they were connected? I mean, I guess people knew. I didn't know.
Yeah, dopamine issue, I think, again. Dopamine.
But but it made it so much easier to resist that. And I could totally relate to what you guys were saying about the sweets at the family events and the get-togethers. They just look like table decorations to me. They're just pretty, like centerpieces, ornaments. It's not food, it's just decorations. And now I've gotten so much better at being able to resist, because people will be like, oh, you've done so well, you can just have a piece of cake, you just have a little piece. No, I love you dearly, I'm not eating your cake. Because I will have no peace for 3 days and I will have to start all over again. So I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you so much. Love you, mean it. But yeah, not having any sweet taste has been huge, life-changing for me. And I've been able to lose 40 pounds. I have not shifted weight like that in over a decade, maybe 15 years. So I'm finally seeing my success story, which is so great after being so discouraged and feeling so hopeless for so long. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Amazing. I mean, 40 pounds, that's really good going, of course. I mean, let me basically very, very similar story to Rachel. I do occasionally eat some, quote unquote, bad food, but I'm at a place now where I can eat that and not actually kind of get that addiction back. I can just eat a tiny little bit. Yesterday was my daughter's birthday party. I had a tiny slice of cake and that was it. But that's taken me a long time to get to that point.
I think you are going to win most relatable person of the year award, because everything you were saying about the pie, like, yes. Please let them get distracted so nobody will know how many times I went back to that table.
So you almost want to cause a distraction. Like, can I throw
Fire!
something?
Fire!
Right, exactly.
What's up? I'll get something from Costco. Yeah, it's all crap. Yeah, no, it's fine. All right, bye.
I'll save the pie. Yes. I love it. Rachel, I'm so happy for you. You shared that beautifully. Thank you so much.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome. All right, up next is a face that many of you have probably been sitting here going, ketogenic woman, it's Anita Bree. Well, yes, it is, as a matter of fact. And if you haven't been sitting here thinking that, folks, what are you even doing with your life? I'm going to tag her account below. You need to go check out Anita on YouTube, the Ketogenic Woman. So I am really honored that you are here today. And I'm also very curious to find out, what have you changed recently that's been working?
Well, in September, I set a few goals. I decided, more like habits. I decided I was going to try a few things on a regular basis, because you've been saying for months to have, one metabolic reset a week, maybe, sometimes two. And I never really followed up on that. I would just randomly have them. So I decided I was going to do one type of fat fast per week and one type of lean day per week. And what I chose for my fat fast on the last one, it was the first time I'd ever done it, was a butter day. And so I ate only butter for the whole day. I found that it's really tasty. Somebody suggested this to me, to put some flaked finishing salt on it, or some Redmond smoked salt. And then it almost tastes like you're actually having something to eat besides just butter. It was really good. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but it was very satisfying. And I kind of got the idea for that when from Dr. Boz. She mentioned it, but also you had mentioned bone broth fast with butter in it. And I thought, well, I'll just do the butter because I didn't have any bone broth, in my freezer that week.
I mean, fasting can be very important. I'm not sure of exactly what she's talking about, in terms of metabolic reset. There's lots of different ways of doing these things: fat fasts, water fast, dry fast, protein sparing, modified fast. I think anything that just changes things up a little bit, gives you that metabolic flexibility, is probably going to be useful to just add into your diet regimen,
And
as long as we don't overdo things.
the other thing is a lean day. Now, about 2 years ago, I had some real success doing alternate days of protein sparing modified fast.
Yes.
But I found after, I guess, about 3 weeks of that, I couldn't face them anymore because they're very low fat,
Yeah.
30 grams of fat, I seem to remember. And that just did a number on me. And every time I tried to do another one, I would feel really unstable, and I started to feel like it was setting me up for bad behavior following.
Yeah, I mean, I really struggle with protein sparing modified fast. It's just not enough fat. It just doesn't taste right to me, and my body just craves the energy.
And so I thought
But they can be useful. Some people do swear by them.
it worked, but I can't do it the way it was laid out. So I started doing what I call a need a lean day. It's like a little bit of play on words. I need a lean day. So I did it my way, right?
Yes.
And basically, I'm just eating. I'm not trying to hit, the typical protein sparing calories, nor am I trying to stay under the fat, but I'm just eating lean meat to hunger.
Yes.
And I'm still adding a little bit of fat where I feel I needed it. So when I tracked that, I found I was hitting about between 1,200 and 1,300 calories a day, which is quite a deficit from my TDEE.
Yeah.
But I was
TDE is total daily energy expenditure. So it's BMR, basal metabolic rate, just the amount of kind of calories you'll burn just in a day by being alive, multiplied by your activity level. So typically about 1.2 for a totally sedentary person, maybe 1.1 even perhaps, and then up to possibly even 2.5 times for an extremely, kind of what's the word? Energetic, person doing a lot of activity, physical activity. So like we're working out twice a day, for example, could be 2 times your BMR, maybe even slightly higher, 3 times maybe.
hitting about 50 grams of fat a day, which is still really low.
Yeah.
But
It's still basically a PSMF for the most part.
that extra 20 grams of fat seemed to make the difference between making a protein sparing day survivable for me or not. And just doing it once a week, I'm never going to do that more than once a week. And I always make sure I have a good refeed day the next day. Like I go right back to fatty meats all day long, 70-30 range calories from fat.
And I think this is really useful because this is what I teach in my Primal Fusion diet. You guys can check out links in the description in the episode show notes. Basically, it's trying to mimic what our ancestors would have actually naturally done, because the way that evolution works is what we've been doing for 4.5 million years is going to be the optimal human diet and the optimum way of eating. And we weren't carnivore, we weren't vegan, we weren't low carb, we weren't keto. Specifically, we didn't know about these things. We didn't know calories. You basically ate when there was food, when you were hungry. And otherwise you would have rested and digested and so on. And we would have naturally done periods of fast. We would have naturally done periods of protein sparing modified fast because all we could find was, say, chickens or mice or something that didn't have a lot of fat on them. And then there would have been days where we went just full on blown keto, just eating tons of fatty meat. There would have been times where we gorged on carbohydrates in the summer, for example, when there was fruit around, though that would have been a lot lower sugar than fruit, nowadays. So I think this kind of brings us to this idea of metabolic flexibility. This is what I teach my patients, is trying to just maintain what we would have done naturally for 4.5 million years. We just have to think about what we need to do and then implement it, because we can't naturally do that nowadays, really, because of just supermarkets and takeaways, all the rest of it. We don't have those food shortages and seasons really that we used to have. So it's just putting those things purposefully back into your diet, I think, is really important.
I just find that it's doable for me now. And I'm in the home stretch with my weight loss. For those that don't know, I was over 320 pounds. I've lost 145 pounds.
Wow. 145 pounds. That's like 60 kgs. I weigh 71 kgs. So what's that, about 150 pounds roughly? she lost almost me. That is quite impressive. Very impressive.
last these last
Amazing.
30 pounds, it's just inching off.
Yeah.
But I find now adding those 2 metabolic resets per week, I think this month I'm going to end with a weight loss of a couple of pounds. Now I'm celebrating that because I often will go through a month, I do everything right according to the books, and my weight stays the same. So what I appreciate about you, Kelly, is how you understand that some of us seem to need these tweaks to keep going, and these metabolic resets to keep going. And your groups that's the cheering section for me. That's the cheerleader squad I need to go, yes, I know it's only going to be a pound this month or 2 pounds this month, but I'll take it because they add up over a year.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. When you're down to your last 30, if you lose 1 to 2 pounds a month, but you do that
Yeah.
for 12 months, hello.
I
Now
know.
you're a lot closer to the goal. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's not rocket science, really, a lot of this stuff. I think, kind of Anita's saying there that some people need these tweaks. I think everyone needs these tweaks, really. Just at some point, they're going to need these tweaks. And this has been spoken about for a very long time. Keeping the body guessing, quote unquote, in this idea that we need to change things up every now and then. And again, this comes back to what would we have done naturally in a human diet? We would have done this anyway, just because we had to. It was an absolute necessity. But actually, we need to put those things in purposefully because we're otherwise not doing it.
I think there are a lot of takeaways here I think that people will appreciate. First of all, even when somebody has lost 140 pounds, that last part can get really slow and really frustrating. And there's no point along the way of 140 pounds where you say, wow, every single day I lose weight. That's just not how it works. Right?
No, it is not a linear thing. It's up and down with that trend going down.
Yes. And then also for people to hear that if you were to throw in a lean day once a week, you might feel great and break a little stall. I do see that work really well. If you were to do it every other day, or some people try every day that way, I think, how on earth are you functioning with that little amount of fat? But I do find that a day, sometimes 2 per week, and then especially if you counter that with a really high fat, with a fat fast, which I've done a lot of fat fasting where you eat nothing but fat, or up to 20 grams of protein is what I call a fat fast for myself, that you feel good and the scale is moving. And I love that you named it an Anita Lean Day.
I'd question the wisdom of doing a 20-gram fat fast. It's probably not enough to really get into like insulin and stuff like that. Really, protein doesn't really do that much to insulin. The idea of the fat fast is, you're really keeping your insulin still very, very low, yet providing energy. I mean, I guess it depends what you're trying to achieve. For me, the idea of fasting really is just give that complete metabolic break, allow the body to get rid of all of that insulin resistance, and just to let the body just rest and digest, and just give it a break from everything, which I think we naturally would have done. I don't think there's any point in human history where we would have naturally done things like a fat fast. I can't see that ever happening. We didn't have access to butter. We didn't have access to just fat in a tub. We had access to fatty meat, but that would have come with protein. So I don't really see the benefit of wisdom in terms of evolutionary diet of a fat fast. I don't really see, and also you're just still just pumping your body full of calories. I'm not really sure there's that much point in doing a fat fast. I also don't see particularly the benefit in really doing things like protein sparing modified fasts either. Excuse me, my daughter's bringing me things. I don't really see the benefit in doing things like protein sparing modified fasts either, particularly because the idea is to just give low calories, eat some protein to kind of spare your muscles. But we don't need to do that. You don't really, because growth hormone goes up if you don't eat. If you eat, growth hormone won't go up as much, if at all. It actually will be suppressed. So you're actually almost doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. And often people end up just eating more because they don't feel full. They feel, even though protein is quite satiating, they need that fat as well. So you often end up eating more than they should, or snacking and things, kind of just undoing the whole point of it, really.
cool because I'm all about make it yourself. When somebody asks me what are
Yeah.
the rules of a fat fast, I'll say, according to who? Because we're all just making this up, right?
I get that a lot too. Yeah. What, can you have this? Can you have that? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, my question is, I don't know, can you? Because I either can't, I'm like Rachel, no taste of sweet to my lips whatsoever. But some people say, they're flavored electrolytes, don't throw them off. It doesn't cause cravings. So the question is always, I'm not sure. I know my answer for myself, but
Mhm.
there's only one way for you to find out. So thank you so much for that, Anita.
I think a lot of this, what drives it, I spoke about it already, is dopamine. I think a lot of the cravings that people kind of express when they eat bad food again comes from the dopamine side. Things like alcohol, smoking, drugs, they all raise dopamine. Coffee will probably raise your dopamine as well, I'm sure. As well as other, other things.
Appreciate
Well,
you
thanks
sharing.
for allowing me to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Hi, I have Michelle up next. Michelle has, at least the beginning of her story, is so common. Just what I hear the most, which is, oh, I should be able to maintain my weight eating at maintenance calories, but that's way more than I normally eat, and I'm maintaining weight far below that. So now what? If any of you don't know what a reverse diet is, I will link to a video I did recently with Katie Kelly. But I think what Michelle is going to share might help talk you through what that process is like.
Yeah, I mean, this basically refers to just chronically undereating, I think. And this is something I see a lot, especially with women, chronically undereating. And of course, your body will just basically go into that starvation mode. All of your, kind of fat that you're trying to lose is your emergency storage. If your body basically is saying, you're a period of starvation because you're undereating for so long, for so much, everything else is going to shut down. Your body basically, what is it likely to say? Is it likely to say, oh, you know what? You're basically dying. You're starving to death. There's no food availability whatsoever. But you know what? Let's just get rid of all your fat. Let's just get rid of your emergency storage backup that's keeping you alive because because you just don't want it. It doesn't look good. Or is it going to say, you know what? Actually, you're dying. You're starving to death. We need to hold on to this emergency storage as long as possible. And if anything, actually, we need to get more of it. What's it likely to say? It's likely to keep it and, in fact, make it bigger.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, I joined your group in April. I'd been a carnivore for 5 years and I had lost a lot of weight. But the last 12 pounds was still holding on like a barnacle on a boat. It was not going. And I didn't know how to shift it. I just didn't know how to shift it. So I came along to join your group for some insight. And I wanted to be among like-minded people, basically, because when you're a carnivore, you don't discuss it a lot with people because you get the you're going to die conversations. So I joined your group, and one of the first things that I learned about was my TDEE. And I did my TDEE, and I actually thought that I was eating really well. I was full, I was happy, I was healthy, my markers were all fantastic. I was eating less than 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah, that's pretty much my face. Like 1,000 calories is just under 1,000 calories is just nowhere near enough. Like, I mean, to give you some context, I eat about 3,000 calories. I weigh 70 kilos. I'm working out again, like every day, mostly. You can see I'm, building some muscle again. But I'm not doing crazy workouts. I'm doing like 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at most a day. Like, that's not crazy workouts. I mean, the other day I did 2 workouts a day, but that's not very common. And, like I'm still losing weight on 3,000 calories a day. Now, I'm not some amazing genius, I'm not stick thin. I haven't got a massive 6-pack, anything like that. But 1,000 calories a day, your body is definitely going to be in starvation mode. There is absolutely no doubt. If your body is just chronically undernourished, it's going to hold on to your fat stores because your fat stores are your emergency storage. What's your body going to do? If it's basically faced with the prospect of you not eating and dying of starvation, is it going to just freely give up all of your fat stores, which are your emergency backup storage that's keeping you alive? Or is it going to say, you know what? No, I need to hold on to this as long as possible. And in fact, let's get more of it. Let's make you even fatter so that we can actually build more emergency storage. It's probably not going to happily just get rid of all of your fat stores.
And I genuinely did not know, because I would have a big fat steak and a couple of eggs and I felt great. But you put that big fat steak into the carb manager and I was just not eating enough at all.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people, I'm an all or nothing personality. So if I'm going to do something, I'll just jump in.
Yeah, this is why I usually, suggest people eat approximately about half a kilo of meat a day, because as a baseline, because that's going to give you, in terms of protein, is about 30% protein. So that's going to be roughly, maybe call it 150 grams of protein. That's 600 calories a day. The fat is going to be about 40% fat, maybe a little bit more. Obviously, you probably want a bit more fat than that anyway. If you're on keto, low carb keto, especially carnivore, you want more like 75 to 80% fat. If we call it 75, that's 3 times the 600, because there's, 25% kind of, protein, 75% fat, consuming 0 carbs or close to. 600 times 4 is 2,400 calories a day. 1,000 calories a day is just grossly insufficient.
Straight in. And
Yeah, I mean, the note on the screen here, Kelly's saying she usually recommends people increase slowly the calories to avoid weight gain. I'd absolutely agree with that. Again, because of this thing, if the body's in this starvation mode, what it's going to say is the moment food comes in, is it going to fuel muscle? Is it going to fuel brain and tendons and connective tissue and bone and all of those things? Or is it going to basically be coming from a time of starvation and it's going to then say, you know what, I need to put it all straight here, all straight onto your gut, which is basically going to make you even fatter. So you have to, in my opinion, I think slowly increase these calories by maybe 250 a week, something like that. But in this case, perhaps it worked for Michelle, which is great.
said to incrementally put it up and I went, no. And so I literally just, the same day, I went up to 1,600 calories because that was my deficit to lose weight amount that I should be having for my height, weight, etc.
That's actually not that big of an increase.
And 1,600 calories was a full 600 calories more than I was eating.
Yeah.
Did not gain an ounce. I did not gain, did not lose. I just maintained. And I did that for 2 months because I thought it's going to come off soon. It's going to come off soon. And it didn't. It still didn't.
So 1,600 calories, she increased by, let's say, 600 to 700 calories over 8 weeks. She said 2 months. So 3,500 calories is approximately equal to a pound of fat in terms of caloric kind of expenditure and intake and so on. So she ate 600 over 8 weeks. We'll call that 4,000. Let me do my maths now. 4,800. If it's 700, we'll call it 5,000 calories. That should be about 1.5 pounds of fat, actually, that she should have actually gained if we're actually just talking about calories in, calories out as a very simple model of energy. Obviously, she just said she didn't gain anything, though. Now, maybe it's just variation. Of course, 1.5 pounds isn't huge amounts, but it's a decent size of fat if you're going to notice that on your body.
Then there was a conversation about going up to your maintenance number that you're at, that you should be having when you're at your goal weight. So I then went up to 2,000 calories a day. And 2,000 calories a day from 1,000 calories a day. And the first week, I gained 1.3 kilos, which is about 2.5 pounds.
Yes.
And I was okay with that. I didn't have a panic. I just thought, so I just trust the process.
Yes.
And I kept eating the 2,000 calories a day. And I did that for the best part of a month. And my weight just stayed the same. I just maintained at 2,000 calories. 2 weeks ago, I cut back down to the deficit number and I'm having 1,700 calories a day.
Yes.
And in 2 weeks, as of this morning, I've lost 7.5 pounds.
Oh, baby, that's exactly how this is supposed to work. Michelle, you went from stucker than stuck at 1,000 calories up to 2,000 maintenance calories, stayed there 2 weeks as recommended,
Yep.
at least
4
4 weeks, stayed there even
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Fabulous. And then you did the drop, and for the last couple of weeks, now down 7.
This is how reverse diets work. So basically the idea is breaking that starvation mode, giving your body the signal that, You don't need to hold on to that fat anymore, kickstarting that process and losing the weight again. These things have been known about in like the bodybuilding community and stuff for decades. This idea of reverse dieting, refeeding, all of these things, carb cycling, fat fast, water fast, all this kind of stuff. It's been known about for decades in the bodybuilding community. Unfortunately, it's often been, termed as like bro science. There is a lot of bro science still out there in the carnivore community, but we do see these things happening. And of course, it's really nice for Michelle to be seeing that benefit. But if you're out there and you're struggling to lose weight, this might be possibly the reason why. I see this so often, people not eating enough calories.
That is textbook how this should go. I am so proud of you. For people watching, I know I frequently hear the hardest thing is, I'm not losing, but I have to eat more first. Yes.
Yes. And honestly, one more thing, when I get to my goal weight, because now I know it's when,
Yes.
I am looking forward to eating 2,000 calories again a day.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible to only eat 1,000 calories a day.
Yes.
Yay.
I am so pumped for you. It's just the most exciting thing ever for someone to have more energy, to be able to eat more food, to feel better, and to get better results is one of the greatest thrills. Michelle, I'm just really proud of you.
Honestly. Yeah, fabulous. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
To tag on to what Michelle was just saying, Elizabeth was supposed to be here to share today, but something changed with work just a few minutes ago before we recorded. She was going to share how she also had to start eating more, but once she started eating more, her energy came back. She started moving more. She felt better. And now she says, I'm losing weight far easier than when I was a chronic undereater.
Yeah, it happens all the time, for sure.
It is a pretty common tale, but it's one that I wish would be told every single day on every channel. Let's talk about it. That was great. Thank you, Michelle. Hey, Taryn, thanks for joining us today. What's new with you lately?
Hi, Kelly. It's great to be here. So I am a lot like Anita, that I was in your groups for a very long time, and
This audio's on the video's end, not on my end. So I apologize to my viewers for this audio. It's just obviously Taryn's recording.
you talk about metabolic reset days, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And on occasion, I would try one. Things were going pretty well. That's probably why I ignored it for a while. And then February hit, and then February through about July, I stalled, meaning no weight loss, kind of just up and down.
I apologize for the interruption. I had to go and get my son from having his nap.
Pound here or there. And I thought, well, this is not fun. And I don't know why this is happening. And I thought, maybe my body just wants to be this weight for the rest of the time because nothing's happening. And I knew better. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to dig back into the handbook and dig into stuff and see. And I talked with some other people in my group, in the Facebook group. And the one Wednesday, we decided to do a bone broth fast. And I was like, all right, I'll try this. I really don't want to do water fasting. It's not for me. I like to eat. We tried it. It went well. The scale moved. I was like, okay. Then I was like, all right, I'm going to do a fat fast because I really like the creme brulee. I've eaten it before, but I could eat it all day. That's what a fat fast is going to let me do. So I was happy. And I was like, let's do this.
Again, I mean, I would question the idea of a fat fast and whether it's even suitable. I just don't really see how we would have ever done that evolutionary wise. So I don't think it should probably fit into our, kind of diet nowadays. But I guess at the end of the day, whatever works to keep you on that path is not a bad thing.
Well, the scale moved again after I did that. So I was like, all righty, I like this a lot. I don't feel like I'm doing anything weird. I don't feel like I'm not eating.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I'm celebrating because I'm eating creme brulee and pork belly and all the fat. So from mid-July till I think it was like mid-August of kind of doing these weekly, I lost 8 pounds.
Wow.
So
awesome.
now I keep throwing them in here or there. The only one I think I haven't done is a lean day, which I might do. And I haven't done a full sardine fast, but I did eat sardines again yesterday, which is a big one for me. So
yes. Yeah, I think even if you're not going to do like 3 days of sardine fast or like Jane Crummett, 100 days of sardine fast, right? That just having them occasionally still get.
That's ridiculous. 100 days of sardine fast. That's basically a PSMF for the most part. That's probably screwed up her body. I wouldn't do that.
Benefits of the omega-3s and the vitamin D, and I just shared with my groups recently, if you do
Okay, you get a ton of omega-3s from like meat anyway, so you really don't need it for the omega-3s. And the vitamin D, like your diet is like almost nothing for vitamin D. Just go out into the sun.
have low vitamin D levels, it's proven in research that it's very hard to release body fat. So just getting those omega-3s for inflammation.
I'd have to double check that research, but certainly vitamin D is really important for hormone levels. We mentioned things like testosterone earlier, really important for testosterone levels.
Vitamin D levels up. That's a win. So Taryn, fat fasting, creme brulee, a little bit of extra sardines, some bone broth fasting, and baby, you are cooking with gas. I love it. This is exciting. Taryn, you always bring joy to our group. Our Wednesday night group is just full of a lot of love, and you are part of that. And thank you for sharing today. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I have Kathy. Kathy, tell me what has been one of your recent changes or something that you've noticed as a breakthrough?
Well, I started keto in 2019. I was 328 pounds. You know, they all tell you you can't lose weight, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not going for that. I've got to do something. Time's going to pass anyway. So what I did was I went keto and I lost weight. I lost like 80 pounds. And then, beginning of 2022, I got cocky. I thought, I know what I'm doing here. I don't need to track anything. I didn't even put away the scale. That's how cocky I was getting.
Wow.
And then I'm like, something's not right here. I think I'm gaining weight just from my clothes. So I get on the scale and I'm like, oh my goodness, I gained 20 pounds. So I'm like, what was I thinking? I started tracking.
It's easy to do. I mean, I've been there. You just fool yourself into thinking that, you're doing perfectly fine. You're not really tracking anything and you think you know better. And then one day you look in the mirror and suddenly things are not great.
Beginning of 24, I lost the 20 pounds. And then by September, 9 months had passed and nothing's happening here. So I'm like, what is going on? And I decided to join a group, your group. I heard your group. I'm not a joiner by nature. I decided I'm going to join your group and see where that goes. I wasn't expecting much, truly. I just because I was listening to you and Anita every day, and I thought, okay, this does help. Listening to somebody else, I couldn't believe the difference it made. I am so surprised. Nobody is more surprised than me and anybody. Any of my friends will tell you I'm basically a hermit. I go out if I have to. I'm not afraid I don't have social anxiety or anything. Lots of people annoy me. So I stay inside.
I think I'm actually quite similar to Kathy, to be perfectly honest.
I always joke. My neighbors say,
What do you think, Noah? Are you like Kathy? My little son Noah's come to join us for the last part of this video. Just woken up from his nap.
I haven't seen you in a long time. I said, yeah, I'm staying inside to save myself a jail sentence. So I joined your group and I can't even tell you what made the difference. It's just everybody talking to each other on a regular basis, I guess, or whatever. As of last week, officially, because I wait a week to see if the numbers stay the same.
Yes.
I've lost 102 pounds.
Oh, Kathy! Yes.
Very impressive. Well done, Kathy.
So I have another 75 to go, but I'm good. I can live with that. I know I feel like now with the group, and this is what's astonishing to me, that group can make so much of a difference if you let it. Yeah. I don't know at other places where you go in person and stuff, people aren't really sharing that much. It's more the lecture. I think that's the difference. Is that people are sharing their story and that helps inspire you and give you confidence that, yeah, they're having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. She got over it. I'll get over it. It's like that. So I can't recommend tracking and joining the group highly enough. I really.
Yeah, I mean, this goes to obviously any group. Of course, Kelly, these women are part of Kelly's group. That support. Yes, thank you, Noah. The support is really, really important. It helps to keep people on track. Noah's having his input here as well, aren't you?
Feel like that's really took me over the edge, and now I feel like I can do it as long as I stay connected. But I'm trying to build habits too.
Yeah.
It's changing my routine, getting in a habit of doing certain things at a certain time. So I think I'm on my way. I'll make it.
I know you are going to inspire a lot of people. And I know some of you at home thought Rachel was relatable. Which is true. And then here came Kathy with, I don't want to leave the house because, people are annoying. That was great. The combination of the two. Many people will be like, yes and yes. The fact that at 76, you said, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to drop this 102 pounds now. I'm going to join a group. And hello, you're going to go on a YouTube channel. What do you think about that? That's amazing. I'm really proud of you, Kathy.
That's way outside the box.
Yeah, the box is a distant memory at this point, right?
Yeah, it's in an alternate universe, but yeah.
I
But
love it.
I love your groups, and I love you in particular. I get a lot of inspiration from Adina as well.
Yeah, oh,
Well,
me too.
Between you and her, I'm actually bought 2 cans of sardines, so I haven't got that far yet to open them up, but I'm close.
Anita, we've influenced her to buy them. They're still in the pantry, but we've got her 2 cans in, one for you and one for me.
Yeah.
I love it. Ladies, thank you all so much for coming here. I hope the people who listened will gain something from this. If any of you watching at home thought that one of these tips was helpful or you related to anything in the video, please comment below. I'm sure they would love to come back and read the comments. Thanks for spending time with us today, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, ladies, for your stories there. Really inspirational, of course. Lots of really good tips there. I mean, just a couple of things. I think, really the long and short of it, I've given you my commentary throughout the video, of course. I interrupted less. Hopefully that was better. Let me know in the comments, of course, guys, if you still want me to interrupt a little bit less, leave it run longer, and then have a bit more explanation. I think really all of this, what it really shows is metabolic flexibility is incredibly important. And having those kind of metabolic resets, fat fast, protein sparing modified fast, sardine fast, water fast, dry fast, whatever you want to call it, is really just changing things up a little bit every now and then actually is incredibly important. I think the key takeaways for me there are, change things up every now and then. Number one. Number two is don't undereat calories. This is a real problem I really do see people making. And then number three is the dangers of that addiction to that bad food and how changing your diet, getting rid of all of that processed food can perhaps help to break that carb addiction, that fast food, that bad food addiction, probably other addictions as well, by affecting dopamine. And of course, you guys can check out my main channel at The Meat Medic for more episodes on dopamine. I'm going to have one coming out very soon. And of course, other things on dietary changes and the carnivore diet. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. It's time for me and Noah to go. I'll see you in the next one.